What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the breakdown video for the Undisputed Junior Welterweight Championship fight that takes place Saturday, February 26th on ESPN Plus, when the undefeated Junior Welterweight Champion at 140, Josh Taylor, makes a mandatory defense against WBO mandatory challenger and undefeated Jack Catarrell of the United Kingdom. I guess this is a big fight, according to, it is a big fight. Yeah, okay, I'm going to take that back. It's a big fight in terms of Taylor is one of the pound for pound best fighters in boxing, and he's putting his undisputed title on the line. So whenever an undisputed championship is on the line, it's a big deal. And it's a mandatory fight, though, against Jack Cadorell. And we'll get into his resume and how he hasn't really done that much, but we'll get into that. But, Taylor coming into this one is a big favorite. And, I don't expect a lot of people are going to believe that Cadorell stands a chance, but, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the fight. I'm going to give my breakdown, right now. And when I do my breakdown videos, it's pretty simple. It's, I ask 4 big questions, actually 5 big questions out of each, from each fighter. I start with the favorite, then I move to the underdog. And then, is it better for boxing if the favorite or the underdog wins? And is it, who finally is going to win this fight? So let's start with the heavy favorite heading into this fight, the undefeated and undisputed junior welterweight champion, Josh Taylor of Scotland. So Taylor, heading into this fight, is coming off of his career best win, a hard-fought but convincing 12-round unanimous decision over Jose Ramirez, as he unified all 4 belts in that fight and left no doubt that he's the #1 guy in the division with a very convincing 12-round unanimous decision. He put Ramirez down a couple times in that fight, almost knocked him out. In reality, he really did almost knock him out. And, he fought his ass off. It was he fought hard, and really took control of the fight. And then, especially after the knockdowns, and then the late rounds, he started to fade a little, but nothing bad. And, Ramirez won a couple rounds late, but Josh Taylor deservedly walked away with a unanimous decision and his career best win, as he became only the 6th man in the 4-belt era to unify all 4 titles and become an undisputed champion. So this is a big deal for Josh Taylor, who really has taken over 140 pounds in the last 2 to 3 years. He really has. Since the World Boxing Super Series tournament, just prior to the tournament, he dominated, not dominated, but he defeated Victor Postal. And then after that, went on to hand Ryan Martin his first loss, handed Ivan Barianchik his first loss, handed Regis Prograis his first loss to unify the IBF and WBA belts and become the World Boxing Super Series champion and tournament winner. And then he went on since then and has become the undisputed champion, defeating Jose Ramirez last year. So this guy has knocked off top fighter after top fighter at 140, and now is trying to, move up in terms of pound for pound rankings and dollar amount and take on the big dogs, all the big dogs. And, there's talks of a possible Teofimo Lopez fight later in the year. And then even talks of a possible move up in weight to 147 pounds. We got to see what happens, but, it's very, very possible that Taylor moves up and takes on, and defends, moves up in weight later on in the year. But Taylor is a very, very good fighter, and he's out to prove himself, against the absolute best. And heading into this fight, I'm just worried that he might overlook Jack Cadorell, but I don't think he's going to. I don't think he has that mentality, and I'll tell you why. Because he gets to defend his undisputed title at home in Scotland. That's a big deal right there. This is basically a backyard fight. Well, I believe it's in Scotland. If not, it's in the United Kingdom right there. And, he's fighting, a British fighter. So he's going to be up for this fight. He really is. He's going to really be into this fight. He's going to be up for it. And I think he's rearing to go and get back in the ring. Because by the time of the fight, it's going to be 9 months out of action, So I think he's going to be good to go and ready to fight. Now, what kind of fight does Josh Taylor need to have to win this fight? And to be honest, it's his same style. Just box, use his mobility, use the angles, box, and set himself up. Don't go for broke. Set up his punches, land those time shots, and really break down Jack Catarrell, as he has, in terms of the experience of big major fights. Taylor has the absolute edge in that category, and he needs to take advantage of what I think is a green Jack Cadorell to these moments. So, I think Josh Taylor needs to come in confident and know that he is the A side and the odds-on favorite, and just show everybody why. And I think he has that mentality. Now, can Josh Taylor win this fight by knockout? Honestly, I think he can. I think he can take Jack Catarrell into the deep waters and drown him, and really just tee off if he wants. He could coast to a decision. He really can. That's the next question. Can he win a decision? Absolutely. But I do believe he can win by knockout as well. So we'll see. Now, what does this fight mean for Josh Taylor? Well, in terms of legacy, I don't think this fight's really gonna be like, oh, hey, remember when Taylor beat Catarrell? It's not one of those fights, but it'll lead to bigger fights, and he has to win fights like this to continue to get those opportunities, continue to leave his name on everybody's mouth, and so it's big that he comes in and looks impressive in this fight, as well. Yeah, he's a heavy favorite going in against Catarrell. Catarrell has never been in a ring with anybody like Taylor, so he needs to go take advantage of that and show everybody why, and really blitz Jack Catarrell should be the attitude that he has. What does a loss mean for Josh Taylor in this fight? It's going to devastate him. Not only will he lose all his belts, but his stay at the top and his, ownership of the top dog, and really pound for pound, is really going to take a hit, because right now he's on the verge of moving up in weight and getting bigger fights, and big name opponents, and conquering another division, having the opportunity to do that. Or a showdown with Teofimo Lopez, because lightweight's one of the best divisions in boxing, and it's just below him. So some of those guys might be willing to move up in weight. So he's right on the verge of getting those bigger name opponents in big name fights. He just has to keep winning in the meantime, and this is one of those fights right here that it's very easy to overlook an opponent and get beat when you do that. So he needs to, a loss really would be devastating to him. Now let's move on to the underdog, Jack Catarrell, and we're going to see what he's done rolling in. And the thing is, it really isn't much. He hasn't been busy. He hasn't fought in a long time. And, he really has never been in a ring with anybody even close to the top 10. And, I guess the best name on his resume is O'Hara Davies, who he got a unanimous decision over. But Jack Catarrell, 26-0, 13 knockouts, but definitely not your prototypical power puncher and real serious threat. It's one of those, he earned his mandatory status. I don't know how he earned his mandatory status, but he really is, in my opinion, overmatched heading into this fight, and he's going to have to prove himself, all in one fight, and that's very tough to do, but we'll see. He's hungry, obviously. He waited around for this title shot, and now he's got it, so we're going to see what kind of fight he can bring to the table. I think he needs to just put pressure on the body of Josh Taylor. Taylor, I've seen in some fights, tends to fade and coast in the late rounds. Now, not fade to where he gets exhausted, but with the right kind of pounding on his body, he hasn't been the most active since he defeated, since he won the World Boxing Super Series in 2019, where he defeated Ryan Martin in 7 rounds, Ivan Barianchik in 12, and Regis Prograis in 12. He's only fought 13 rounds since, I believe that was October of 2019. So we're talking over, 13, we're talking 2.5 years in that area right right there. He's only fought 13 rounds. So can Catarrell, he needs to be well conditioned. He needs to come in, and I think he needs to put the pressure on Taylor, smother him, cut the ring off. Don't let Taylor dictate the pace by boxing and moving the way Taylor does. He needs to cut the ring off. He needs to put pressure on the body of Josh Taylor so Taylor can get tired in the second half of the fight and then take advantage of Josh Taylor. That's what I think Catarrell needs to do to win. Can Catarrell win a decision? Win a knockout? I find it's going to be tough for him to win, period. But can he win by knockout? I think the best way to win by knockout, I don't think he has that one-punch power, but you never know. Anybody can get caught on any given day. But I think the most logical knockout scenario is if he wears down Taylor and stops him late. That's what I think could be possible. Now, can he win a decision? It's one of those ones where I don't think he can win a decision over Taylor, but, the most logical is that he just wears him down and smothers Taylor and makes it a dogfight and walks away the busier of the two fighters in the round. I really have never seen Jack Catarrell, and his resume doesn't show me that, that he can win a decision against Taylor, but we'll see. You never know. What does this fight mean for Jack Catarrell? It means everything. It's not about just winning and losing. It's about setting the tone for how good you really are. He goes out there and gets his ass whipped and everything. Let's flip it. Let's say if he wins. If he goes out there and wins this fight by any means, we'll know he's not just the best 140-pounder overnight, but that he belongs in this discussion. Really. He belongs at the top. He's a very good fighter. That's what we need to see. That's what needs to be proven here. He's a little bit behind George Kambosos, in my opinion, where Kambosos was heading in against Teofimo Lopez. It's somewhat on that level. He's not a big name or no name, hasn't done very much, but that doesn't mean he can't win, anything's possible. So, a win would be monumental. It really would. He'd unify all four belts, he'd win all four belts and become only the 8th man to accomplish that feat by that point. And that's a major, major deal. Now, what does it mean if he loses? Depends on how he loses, but nobody's really expecting him to win. So I don't think a loss is going to be too devastating to his career because, again, I don't think anybody really expects him to beat Josh Taylor. So if he comes out and loses a fight, just the strong showing in general, if he can go 12 rounds, that's an accomplishment. If he goes out there and wins some rounds and makes it close, that's a major accomplishment. That's like getting a win, so just depends. But if he goes out there and gets wasted, I don't think he's really going to be taken seriously going forward. But hey, he's kind of in a good position because nobody's really expecting much from him. So any kind of good is going to be really good for him. And now, is it better for boxing if Josh Taylor retains his undisputed title or if Jack Catarrell unseats him and becomes the champion? And that's a no-brainer. It's better for boxing with Taylor staying the undisputed champion and continuing his star on the rise. Absolutely no doubt. To have an undefeated fighter like Jack Catarrell become a champion, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Wouldn't hurt boxing too bad, but boxing needs established fighters to continue to keep winning to set up the big fights. You don't want to start all over with a guy like Catarrell, when we already have an established guy in Josh Taylor. So, it really would be way better for boxing if Josh Taylor keeps his undisputed title. And now, who's going to win this undisputed title fight between Josh Taylor and Jack Catarrell? And for me, it's a no-brainer. I got Josh Taylor winning this fight. I think he's going to break down Jack Catarrell, and I think he stops him in the middle to later rounds and retains his undisputed belt. He's fighting at home. I think he's going to feel that and really be excited to get in there and defend his title in his backyard. And I think he's coming for blood. I think he's going to break down Jack Catarrell and stop him middle to later rounds. Could go the distance, and he could pull it off. I think Catarrell is a major underdog, again, much to the level of Kambosos against Teofimo Lopez. So that doesn't mean that he can't win, that Catarrell can't win. But I always use the term live underdog. I don't see him being a live underdog. I think this is a mismatch. But hey, You never know on any given night. You never know if the favorite is going to overlook the underdog, and it's going to cost them. So we'll see what happens. Saturday, February 26th, ESPN Plus from the United Kingdom, Scotland, I believe, and Josh Taylor versus Jack Catarrell for the Undisputed 140-pound championship is there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown video. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.